What is up, my peoples? This is Icky Timey hanging out with you for another Tuesday Tea Time. I've got the awesome and excellent, wonderful privilege of hanging out with Chad Manalo, Los Angeles-based music director, producer, bassist, sound engineer, tech director, tour manager. This guy does it all. Everything that you could think of that has anything to do with production and music, he's on fire. He started up his studio just a few months ago and is pulling in clients. He's been doing some great work. So we're going to talk to him about that this coming time. Oh, thank you, Casey, for adding that in there. He's also a drummer. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he does play the drums. He sings as well. I don't know that there's anything Chad can't do except maybe fly. He might be able to fly. I don't know. We're going to ask him. We'll ask him. What's up, Don D's? Good to see you on here. So just before we get going with my guy, Chad, I do want to let you know next week we're going to, we're actually in the process right now of talking to a few individuals who are fire people who work firefighters. So we'd love to have this conversation with them and just check out and see how they're doing, how things are going, especially here in the West Coast, man. We've been struggling through it. That's next week. But this week, Chad Manalo, ladies and gents, let's get it on. My dude, what is going on, Chad?
What's happening?
Good to see you on here. Your peoples are saying, what's up, bro? Can you give us a little shout out to your peoples out here online?
Hey, I don't know what peoples I have, but what's up, everybody? Glad to be here.
I'm really excited to talk with you, man. You've been doing some fresh, funky things. If you're just joining us, I'm with Chad Manalo, the music director, producer, bassist, sound engineer, tech director, tour manager. You could follow him at Chad Mixes, all right? So if you're on IG, pop on over to @ChadMixes and like him. Or what do you do on there? You push a heart or do you follow? How does that work, Chad?
Yeah, I think you just double tap for a heart.
Yo.
And I don't know.
Yo, double tap that heart, baby. Let's do this and get it in there. All right, cool. Don D's, Casey, Kevin, Miss Hattie, welcome on, everybody else. Chad, we're going to start as we always do today by asking you, my man, what are you drinking today?
All right, well, I came prepared, and I've got my favorite coffee drink from good old Dunkin' Donuts. This is the iced hazelnut coffee. And I ordered a large this morning, but they ran out of large cups. So they actually gave it to me in a medium and a small. So I drank the medium already, and I'm like, perfect. I'll have like a full cup for the interview.
Did it look weird that you got two drinks for yourself?
I did, yeah.
Yo, my wife, Melanie Timey, calling out because she loved Dunkin' Donuts, the blueberry. There's a blueberry mocha there or something like that.
Oh. Probably.
Man, she loves it, yo, man. She'll make me drive, bro. She'll be like, listen, you need to drive out to Portland to pick this up for me. Because it's, I'm like, girl, I love you because I'm going to make this drive.
Yeah, it's worth it.
You guys are disgusting. Yo, let's talk about life in a little bit, bro. So tell us, what is your nationality? What's your background, man? You look exotic, bro.
I am 100% from the island of the Philippines. So
hey, giving some love to the Philippines, man. We've had quite a few guests from the Philippines be popping up. You guys are doing some things, man. There's enough of you in the world that y'all be doing some things. Matthew says he's been waiting for this. Matthew Bologna, shout out. What's up, Matt? Good to see you on, Pono. So, Chad, do you know where your parents are from? Are they from the same place? Are they from different places in the Philippines?
Yeah, they're pretty opposite, honestly. Like my dad's from like the northernmost part of the Philippines, which I remember him telling me stories of they'd like intercept like Taiwanese radio signals.
Wow.
So that's how north, he was. And my mom's not from the south part, but she's from like the southern part of the northern island. So pretty opposite. Yeah.
Got it. Did you guys have a particular dialect that you spoke at home?
So we actually spoke Tagalog at the house, even though like my dad knows a bunch of different dialects. So that's why like a lot of people think that I was born and raised in the Philippines, but I am fluent in Tagalog because my dad's thing was like, well, he's gonna learn English anyway since we're here in America.
Yeah.
But it's important to kind of pass along, that kind of culture through language, as well as, when I'm in the Philippines or something, he's like,
Right.
it's an advantage that, not just like I won't get taken advantage of or whatever, but like, to actually be able to communicate in their native tongue. So yeah, so we actually grew up in the house speaking Tagalog and not even any English.
Wow, respect, baby. That's respect. How many of you out there speak a different language? Kevin put Taglish. He put Taglish is what he speaks. If you happen to speak a different language, pop on here so we know, comment so we know what other languages you speak. I think that's massive respect, Chad, because most of us who grow up, but when I say us, I mean you all, because I did grow up here, but I started in Tonga, my place of origin, as it were. But most people who grow up here in America don't hold on to a mother language, or a language that they have, from another place. So that's fantastic. So you speak it fluently.
Yeah, fluent.
Wow.
I can't write it fluently because I guess that's a whole nother
Yeah.
challenge. But yeah, I could definitely carry any conversation.
Yeah, Annie says that bilingualism is a win. Bilingualism for the win. And Jillian speaks hablo español, which is that's high respect too. Because Jillian, if you look at her, you'd be like, oh, this is the whitest girl I've ever seen. And then homegirl throws down in Spanish. She gets on it. So my wife is Filipino, Chad, as you know. You know my wife?
Yeah. We met a lot. Yeah.
Not that Filipinos all know each other. That's not what I meant, y'all. I meant we have history together. So,
that's about 90% correct, though. We'll find a link.
Right. She's Filipino, but she speaks Canadian, which is pretty much English. Nancy, yes, Spanish, rocking the Spanish. Very, very cool. Hey, Mana says the best player of the IE. Rolando says you're the best player of the IE. That's high praise right there, Chad. Yo,
I love those guys.
You've been cuddling with that dude, man. He likes you, man. That's cool. That's cool. Okay, let's. I just want to ask a little bit. So you do a ton of stuff. I mean, if you can think of anything that has to do with any kind of music or music production, you've been there, you've done that, you're doing it. When did you know this is what you wanted to do? What opened your eyes to say, this is what I wanted to do?
Well, it really all started with music, and music's always been in my family, a typical Asian household where your mom enrolls you in piano lessons when you don't want to,
right.
So I did that when I was, I think like around 7 or something. And then my piano teacher noticed I had a fascination for rhythm. And she also noticed that I didn't like to practice. So, because I was really good at sight reading. Or I'll pick something up. I'll be like, oh, can you play it real quick? And then I'll pick it up or something. And then, and that just kind of, blossomed into picking up other instruments. Wow. I remember going to the Loma Linda Filipino church when I was like 13 or something. And my older sister took me there and I heard a band. And I was like, that sounds so cool. And literally like that next week, I was like, Dad, can you buy me a drum kit? Because I wanted to be like the drummer. And he did. And for, I don't know, however many months, every Saturday, I would just pay attention to the drummer. Whoa. And I'd go home and I'd just try to memorize everything that he did and try to do it back at home. Moving into high school, and I went to Loma Linda Academy and chapels and all that.
Loma Linda!
I would put together the bands and realize that we couldn't practice without the sound guy. And a lot of the times he wouldn't show up.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, how hard is it? And so really all the things that that I do now has been honestly out of necessity, and realizing that, you could be a musician, you could be a whatever, but ultimately to put together the whole thing is always a team effort. And especially when you're building teams and trying to empower each other and all that kind of stuff, the more you know about it, the more that you can actually not just communicate, but actually, relate to a person, because, why do they gravitate to the tech side? Why do they gravitate to the music side? Right. Things like that. And so, my fascination for everything that has to do with music really stemmed from a necessity.
Yeah.
But now I see why I had to go through all those experiences and learn it. And it's really about just relating to as much different kind of people as I could.
Yeah, for sure. This took on pretty soon early. You also then play the piano. I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to
but
start adding that to your title.
I don't advertise that
No.
for sure. I stopped lessons early as well. I didn't mention that because yeah.
I feel you. I feel you. Um, the this whole you've blossomed out into like this person who has been able to take on a lot of different roles in music. This has kind of propelled you into the person you are today and what you are doing now. So
Mhm.
what is it that you are doing currently? What are you involved with in currently right now?
So right now, I am the tech director at one of Saddleback's 18 campuses. So I'm actually at the Corona campus.
Nice.
But I've also kind of dove in full time into all those things that we mentioned and talked about, with a primary focus right now of producing and a lot of studio work.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to focus on that path, but at the same time, it's kind of what's happened with all this COVID stuff, and it's
Yeah.
kind of brought in more focus over there. So also, circumstantial, that's kind of what happened. But also because of, the restrictions and whatnot, I've been getting a lot of calls from churches, asking about the tech side. How do we get online? How do we do
Right.
live stream? All this kind of stuff. So, I've just been juggling a lot of those. I was just in San Diego yesterday, consulting with another church and trying to get them into this digital space, where right now it's where most of us are living.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so true. That's so right. Hey, I am on with Chad Manalo, director, producer, musician. So, my friends, as you're watching along, we're going to have a lot of interesting things to talk about. But if you happen to have a tech question of some sort, or if you have an issue or music, or you're wondering about something, feel free to pop it into our comments. I will ask Chad directly and see what Chad's got in store for you. Hey, Chad, do you remember the first time you met me? Do you see? That's kind of a story in its own. Do you remember when you
Oh
first met me?
yeah, I very, very vividly remember. Do you remember?
I remember a time when we went towards the beginning of when we first met. What is your
Yeah,
first memory of this?
it was at Pine Springs Ranch.
Ah,
I
PSR.
think I was either 12 or 13. And I speak to everyone about you because honestly, you were the speaker for whatever the event was. It was a weekend event, and that was probably the first time in my life where whatever you spoke about, it really made me see my identity in Christ.
Mm,
And everything that I was doing up to then was kind of like, oh, it's fun. It's, I like music, blah, blah, blah. But I think, yeah, whatever happened at that camp made me realize, like, okay, I was made for a bigger purpose. So you actually have a pretty huge impact in my life and my spiritual life for sure.
Chad, I'm super humbled. I had no idea, man. That is wild. I don't even deserve that kind of story, man. Thank you so much for sharing that. You know what? Coincidentally, that's the same story my wife tells about how she first met me, too. It's weird. She said, and I hate that she tells you. She's like, you came into chapel once when I was in the youth. And I was like, this is, it just doesn't sound as good. So, you know what I remember? I
Mhm.
remember meeting you, and you had to have been a freshman in college. It was early on, and we'd met, and I just thought, man, he's such a like. I want to hug him, man. I just want to hug him, like that kind, like, oh man, this guy's like, he's awesome. He's looking at him. He's like, he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's got a really good like presence about him. And then like you got behind the instrument, bro. And it
Yeah.
was like you went from like, "Hey, love me" to like, "I'ma kill it," and I'm like, "Dang!" Like you went from like, "I wanna hug you" to like, "You're my hero." It was
Oh,
amazing, bro. And most people know you now. Most people know you as a musician, but at
mhm.
that time, it was just like so eye opening to see how gifted you were, like how God had put this on you. And so to watch you kind of like grow and change and like continue to add pieces to your game has been, man, has been kudos to God, not to you.
Yeah,
Kudos to
yeah,
God
definitely.
for throwing
Yeah.
that on you, man. Great work. So Jillian asked, I'll just throw this out there. Jillian asked, how has the COVID affected studio work during these times?
Wow, that's a really good question. Um, well, for me personally, um, it's definitely a good thing to have,
Mm,
because, a lot of studio work is very isolated.
yeah.
I mean, even in studios, you have different booths where you're literally isolated. So that's been a good thing in kind of minimizing the impact of COVID, but at the same time, the studio work is a very intimate place where you gather the right people so you could create the magic, as they say.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that is missing, and so it's honestly kind of hard to get a lot of the creative juices, the inspiration, the immediate feedback, the back and forth, the human connection, which really makes, is what makes the great records and work that lasts, lifetimes and stuff. But at the same time, there's more people creating at home that need help or education with how do you do this and how do you get it from here to that. And so in a weird way, that's kind of made us a little more sought after. And so like I get so many DMs and texts and emails, and even on my website now, just asking, how do you record? What mic do you recommend? What about the laptop? Like all these kinds of things. So in a good way, it's really bringing about awareness as to maybe what we do, because I know a lot of it's kind of kept in a secret. What do they do in there? And moving knobs and things. But it's definitely affected the human interaction piece of it and bringing people together.
Wow. Wow. So if you happen to have, if you're one of those weekend warrior producers, or if you're like homebound and you got your little studio going on, and you need some help, you follow Chad Mixes, man.
Yeah,
He's got
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and DM him. He'll hit you back.
Def-
So in your life, you have now, you're still quite young, but you have a lot of production experience. You have worked both in the church and worked out of the church. And I'm a firm believer that God is absolutely everywhere, right? And so
Mhm.
God needs us to be working not just in the church, but out the church. Like this whole world, this
Absolutely.
is, like that song says, this is my Father's world. So we got to be about that kind of work, whether it's working in a church setting, or whether it's working in the public school sector, or wherever you work, right? You have experience in production in both of these places. So one, I want to ask, how has your experience been from working in the church experience? You have actually worked at quite a few houses of church, really helping them grow their expression of worship through music
Mhm.
and production. What has that been like for you?
Yeah, I've been really blessed, to work at a lot of different churches, and honestly, where I could just be myself and act out the personal mission that God has given me. Um, I think it was never my intention or plan to work honestly at any church, period. um,
Like I said
to
to you
this day,
earlier,
I
you're like the
still,
Paul of like music producers, man. You go to a spot, you help them set shop up, and then you kind of move through, and so that's
right.
pretty cool.
And I mean, to this day, I don't go searching and applying for churches. They just kind of come after me, and I pray about it and really ask God, like, if this is where I'm meant to be, then show the way. And it's been really cool to be a part of some cool churches that have really created a space for people who may feel like they're outcasts or have been left out or have been forgotten.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
and I think for me, the important thing that I've really taken from it is that we shouldn't be attached to like an organization, a church, technically a location, because at the end of the day, no matter what you accomplish, you realize that you're doing this because you're following the call of God, and you want to make sure that you're really obeying and trusting him. And
Right.
after leaving my first church that I worked at, it was honestly one of the toughest decisions I've had to make, because, I felt like we've accomplished so many things and so fast, and here's more and more people coming to know Christ because of the things that we did, and the environment that we created. And then I caught myself, and then I started saying, oh, yeah, the things that we did, that we created, that I've
Mm.
done.
Mm.
And you forget that it's always been God.
Ah,
And
so good.
uh, yeah, and I remember my pastor saying, this is God's work.
Mm.
And if we're called to work with him and alongside him, it's a privilege. But
Ooh.
you know, it's not our work to have been done. We
Mm.
just answer the call if God calls you. And so now I kind of live on the motto of, send me where you need me, God. And I know a lot of churches still, it's tough to be like, no, we want to keep you, or let's hire more people like you and things like that, when you have to understand that the mission field is the world. And if you're needed somewhere else, you go, because,
Yeah.
that's what God has for you.
You see, that's that Adventist blood in you, bro. Adventist pastors be doing that. Be like, look, the Lord called us. We moving to India right now. We gotta go. We
Right,
gotta
right,
go. You're
right,
like, what? Dad, I just started school. I don't care. The Lord called us. We gotta go.
right,
That's that mission. That's that modern missionary blood, man. That's
right.
good stuff. Yeah, and that's fantastic work. In the load, in the way that you've done it, you've done just fantastic job at heeding God's call and being
Mhm.
like, yeah, that's what I want. I love what you said, bro. You said we've been saying it's about us. We did a good job, right? This whole first person plural, when really it's always been God. That's
Right,
hashtag, man. Somebody
right,
hashtag that, please. Hashtag always been God, because we got to keep our center about us. We get a little
right,
carried away about the gifts
right,
God
right,
gave us,
right.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, very cool. So, how about working outside of the church? What's been some of your most memorable productions or tours or anything like that? Something that sticks out in your mind? Any particular artist that you're like, oh yeah, this was like boom, or like
Yeah.
boom.
I've been fortunate enough. Most people probably know me as the bassist for AJ Raphael, who's
AJ Raphael, yes.
almost at like 1 million subscribers on YouTube or something like that. He's viral again on TikTok now. He's just blowing up like crazy.
I
And
guess he's got a couple followers.
I think he got featured on BuzzFeed or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, so I would, was fortunate enough to travel the world for like almost 8 years now with him.
Wow.
And it's been really cool to see just the impact of music and arts. And, obviously in this digital world where, you could be connected to the world and just by clicking live on Instagram or something, and
Yeah.
you don't really realize your sphere of influence and how far it can really reach.
Hmm.
So that's been really cool. And at the same time, I was touring with some pretty major Christian artists at the time, and served as bassist, but also as music director and tour manager and all that kind of thing. So I've gotten to see or have had different interactions from all different varying levels of production and how a tour is put on and all that kind of thing. But one thing that really stuck out to me was I remember when I was kind of overlapping
Yeah.
actually three things where I was touring with AJ, I was touring with the Christian artists, and I was getting studio work
Right.
here in LA, and I was having to fly back and forth and things like that. And this was at the start of Instagram.
Ah,
And
okay.
so I had like, I don't know, 100 followers or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I would remember after every show with AJ, I'd get new followers. And some of them, would comment, "Oh, it was so great. Thanks for coming to New Jersey or Texas or things like that."
Yeah.
And then the next night, I'll be in Connecticut with a Christian artist, and they happen to know AJ. And it was really cool when I would get certain DMs and comments, and they'll be like, "Hey, it's really cool to see a Christian artist or musician playing for a secular artist."
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't know what that meant. I was just like, "Yeah, thanks for the follow." You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But now that I've kind of have seen what God has brought me through and everything. I think it's just so important to realize that I think it's us humans who kind of put that distinction of, Christian, secular, in the world, versus in the church kind of thing. But you realize that wherever God puts you
Yeah.
is a chance and an opportunity
Come on.
to be a representative of his kingdom.
Oh,
And
preach
so,
that, bro.
that applies both, again, in the church, maybe it's
Yeah.
locally where you're at right now, or outside of the church, wherever God sends you. And
Come on.
so there isn't this thing where I have to be secular Chad or
Right.
Christian Chad.
Ha.
It's, once you've believed and, you have a relationship with God, you are Chad, the son of God. And so wherever
Woo.
you go, you have to hold that armor and, say it proudly. You know
Come
what
on.
I mean? That I'm a child of God.
You look, I got to add to your little title. I'm going to put pastor on there too, bro. Preach that word. It's so true. It's so true. And I think we get this like dualistic view because we grow up in a church that sometimes is like really hypocritical, right? Like you act right in church and then you go home and be like, ah, and you're like, dang, this is what I'm getting modeled. So like I have like this is the church me and then this is the worldly me. When in actuality, we're children of God, man. Whether you're in the church or out the church, God wants to be active about us, right? So
Right.
I'm man, fantastic, bro. Okay, so give me, do you happen to have a story or an experience by which you were like, it was one of those moments where you're like, yo, like I'm here in the real world and these people are real people, and my faith is kind of getting its like shining right now because
Yeah.
I'm in moments.
Yeah, totally.
Not to don't call no artists out, man. We don't.
Yeah,
We want the artists to come back, y'all. Just keep hiring Chad because he's doing good things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No. So obviously, being a musician, you always have these dreams of like, one day I'm gonna work with Beyonce, or, one day I'm gonna work with Drake or something like that,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, there isn't a formula. That's the hard thing about this industry, right? It's how do you get there, But there is a kind of a suggested formula of just, work hard, grind, hustle, team no sleep. That kind of thing. And, I did that for a good number of years, because I'm like, what is success? What does it look like? How many artists can I work with? Things like that. But then it all kind of changed, once I started really realizing the power of God in my life and, how he really guides and directs your footsteps, right? And the more I focused on my relationship with God and really focused on what he wants for my life, the more he started to reveal like the desires of my heart, that it wasn't going to be by my own doing and, how hard I grind and hustle. And, it was really going to be based on my relationship with God. And so, having that kind of mindset and attitude, and I'm not perfect. I'm not saying this is what I do every single day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just trying to keep him at the center and the focus of my life. He's opened some pretty big doors. And I've gotten to work with, a lot of artists that are pretty well known and have a big sphere of influence. And I remember one of the first ones that I've had is, I'll just say he's a hip hop legend.
All right.
And, I was lucky enough to become his personal studio and his record label engineer.
Wow.
And again, I had no idea how I got it. It was just God is all I can explain.
Yeah.
But I would remember, just their lifestyle, maybe the things that they talked about or rapped about. And, being born and growing up Seventh-day Adventist, it was very disturbing to me. And I didn't know how to navigate this. I try to think back to, what am I supposed to be doing in this situation, right? Oh, go and be the light, tell them about Jesus. Am I supposed to be memorizing scripture and, reciting it back to them, things like that. And it got to the point where I got scared. And I said, okay, is this what it means to be successful and working with these big artists? And I said, yeah, I don't want this. I don't want this. And I actually went back to my pastor and I talked to him about it. And I said, yeah, I don't think this is for me. And then he gave a different viewpoint of he was like, Chad, maybe this dream of yours to work with this artist, is what God placed in your heart. And it was what you thought you wanted, but you didn't realize that this was part of God's assignment for you, that you're supposed to be that soldier going in there, or you're supposed to be that light going in there, not because you have the Bible memorized or anything like that, but you're just supposed to show like my character through how you do your thing. And I worked with him for a couple months and, more because I was like, you know what, I that is my purpose now. Like, it's not so that Chad can have this credit to his name or anything. It was because I think God has sent me here. And as long as I have him in my life and I put him first and I pray and make sure that what I'm there to do is exactly what God wants me to do and not what I think should be good for him or something like that, then I'm following the call of God. And, it was such a great time. But now I see working with those kinds of artists in a different light. And it really isn't about, credits to the name or anything. It's about, okay, God, what do you need me to, what message do you need me to relay today?
Yeah. What seeds can I be planting
Yeah.
right now, right? That creates thoughtfulness. Man, praise God. Okay, cool. One of our co-hosts. So I've got a ton of co-hosts. These are individuals who come on here and they got comments. Jillian is one of my favorite co-hosts on here. She's always got good questions. So I want to ask it to you right now. I'm gonna pop it up, everyone see. How
Sure.
do you practice self-care in such a hustling profession? Like, that's a good question, Jill.
Woo!
Go right to
Wow.
it.
Well, yeah, that's a crazy one. And I'm definitely guilty of not practicing a lot of self-care.
Ah,
However, I will say I have been getting a lot better. And I will say that the difference is, what is your motivation? What is your purpose? Why are you hustling so hard? Why are you doing what you're doing? And for the music industry, it's like, oh yeah, it's what you love, and but it's like, yeah, but I don't love working 16, 18 hours a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Driving an hour and a half back to Loma Linda.
Loma Linda.
Yeah, but I think, in this context, I'm a very spiritual guy, it really is about shifting that and understanding that, yeah, at this point, would it matter, or how would I feel if I worked with Beyonce or somebody like that? Like, is it a validating thing for me? Like what is it? And I started realizing that this is God's thing still, right? Like, this is God's work. Like, it's God working in me still and asking, me to work with him. And so if I'm meant to be there, God will bring me there. And so my motivation now isn't, I got to hustle so hard so I can, send these beats out to all these artists and everything. It's really, okay, God, what do you have planned for me today? And I focus on today. Yeah. And I realize, especially during COVID, family is just so important. You know what I mean? Now more than ever. And so understanding that my job, my career is a sliver of my life, family is a big part of my life. Different kinds of friendships and relationships are a big part of my life. Educating myself is a big part of my life. And so when you start taking all that into context, you realize, why am I hustling for, this one piece of the pie? What's the motivation behind it? Because I think you start to realize when God's leading your life, you don't feel the need to hustle.
Yeah.
And it's that thing of, if you're not taking care of yourself and practicing self-care, you burn out, which has happened so many times to me. Then it's like, what's worth it if you don't even get to your proposed goal or, your view of success? So, just understanding, what are the priorities in your life, and self-care has to be one of them. Why? Because you're also giving yourself to more than just your career.
Yeah, true.
Your family definitely needs you. So how can you be present there when you're running on 2 hours of sleep?
Man, Chad, get out of my head, man. Leave me alone.
How be present, when a church needs your advice and, you're moody because, again, you have 2 hours of sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Practicing balance in everything, and obviously understanding what the motivation is for you and why you do what you do, is kind of how I view my life now, and try to, walk in that path.
I appreciate you saying that, because I know that, and I'd mentioned this earlier, but I know that people often look on to other people in your caliber, and they sit very covetous as they look on you, and they're like, oh man, I wish I was Chad. I know I say that every morning when I wake up. I'm like, Lord, why can't I be Chad Manalo? But, there are people who say that, and they don't realize all the stuff you've got to go through to have gotten where you get to. And sometimes we tend to turn these individuals into superheroes, into superhuman beings. And we don't realize that everybody struggles and deals with something. right?
Right.
To hear that you say you go through burnout and that you've been through that, man, I think that is so that is so refreshing and so encouraging to people to hear that, man. Thank you for sharing that. I know that comes from a personal place. Appreciate that. Secondly, if you want to get pick up Beyonce, you should have hit me up, man. I got her number. I'll give it to you after the show, bro. I'll pass it to you then. All right.
Yeah, text it to me.
Yeah,
Text it to
I
me.
got you, man. I got you. Hey, we're gonna play a quick game. I've got a song because you're a bassist.
Oh boy.
Because you know music. I pulled up a bass lick. Is that what they call it?
Oh
A lick?
boy, sure. Baseline.
Baseline. I'm gonna play only a little bit of it so you don't catch it because then they try to bring in the music. I need you to guess what the song is. You all, please jump in here and play with us. I'm gonna play just a little bit of it, and I want all of you to guess what it is. Drop it into the comments. Are you ready? Are you ready, Chad?
Okay.
Are you all ready? Here we go. I'm just gonna play a quick, short piece of it. Let's see if you get it.
Billie Jean.
Oh man, that was too easy.
That's a fact. Yeah, everybody knows that.
Everybody knows Alex. See, I told you got this, man. I got you. I hope you picked Billie Jean. I probably should have told you to wait to see what other people would say.
Right. I can do that.
You're that kid who gives the answer right away, and then the rest of us are like, yes, what he said. So very good, very good. Okay, Bronx asked a question. And he said, "How do you know that God truly is leading you to an opportunity and not your own personal gain?" That's a good question. How do you know, this is God, God calling me here, as opposed to, and I think you touched on that just earlier, because if I can say this, it's really not even just about your profession. It's about all of us, pastors included. Pastors included. We all go through that. We're like, oh, this is a bigger church, or oh, they're inviting me to speak here and there, right?
Right.
Sorry, you guys. I see that you guys didn't hear that piece. It was a real short snippet from Billie Jean, and Chad got it right off the back. So, Chad, back to that question, bro. Let me drop that off.
Yeah. Wow, that's a deep, that's a deep loaded question.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think I touched on it a little bit. I think it really has to do with your heart and your motivation, right?
Yes.
So I don't know anything about Beyonce, and we've brought her up a lot of times, and I haven't worked with her, but I would love to, right? But
Beyonce, if you're watching.
why? Yeah, you know what I mean? Why do I want to work with Beyonce? Is it because so I could tell all my friends, that I work with Beyonce, or I could say, oh yeah, I made that beat. You know what I mean? So it's about what is your motivation? What is the reasoning behind it? And I think if it's anything other than expanding the kingdom of God, then it's for your own personal gain, which isn't a bad thing.
Right.
A lot of times God works in both. Obviously He wants to elevate you. He wants to, build your confidence. He wants you to get these credits or whatever so that He could send you into bigger spaces and things like that. But, when it just comes down to simplicity of is this opportunity going to help build the kingdom of God or not?
I think that's a great question we should all reflect on. Anytime you have an opportunity or an option, whether it's doing music in the music industry or whether it's ministry and you get a different calling, you've got to ask, is this about the kingdom, or is this really just about me and my need for some kind of accolade, right? Super, super good. Okay, hey, let's talk studio and houses of worship. Some people are watching along. I'm going to include in that studio, houses of worship, and home studios as well. Is that all right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does every church or house of worship or home get wrong when it comes to production, to worship, to music?
Trying to be like the big church next door.
Oh, so good. Thank you for saying that. Somebody out there needs to hear it. Stop it. Good. That's a good one. Do you want to elaborate, or should we go on?
Yeah, no, I just think, there's so many local expressions of the church in different places around the world, but we think because, there's a big, hip, cool church with lights and a crazy space and everything, we think that, that must be the only way to grow a church. You know, and it's very misleading. And so I think, you know, when you're not actually paying attention to your local congregation, their gifting, I like to call it, you know, the DNA of the church is made up by the people that's in the church. And a lot of times people don't even take the time to
Assess
not
that.
just get to know the people. Yeah, but exactly. You know, it's like, what kind of, you know, gifting do I have in this church with the people who are here? You know, you may have a church that's just somehow all accountants,
Yeah.
you know? So I would say, okay, so then maybe your church is trying to be a church that, you know, God has set up to be a help to other churches that might be hurting financially. You know what I mean? But right now, all we're seeing is like, okay, well, this is a cool church and they've got drums and they got cool lights. So, and they're thousands of members strong. So that's probably what we have to do. And people neglect, you know, what the DNA of their actual local church is.
Right, right. So good, man. Yeah, very true. Ivan says, but Bethel is where it's at. And he says, just joking. We got you, Ivan. We got you, bro. Yeah, no, that's very true. To assess your church correctly, so that you know what gifts God has implanted there to be used for the community. Because praise and worship, even still, is really just a gift that God puts in a church to offer the community. Right. So
Right.
if it's something that we're using just for ourselves, we're probably missing the mark.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Very cool. So let's do this thing, man. I call it 3-2-1. I started it last week. And basically what I'm asking for is 3 tips, 2 tips, and 1 tip. Okay. And they're going to be quick 3-2-1s. So the first one is 3. Can you give us 3 immediate tips that can make everyone's stream recording from home or church better? 3 they could do right now, and their streaming would be better than what they've been doing.
Internet,
Internet, that's a good one.
audio,
Audio.
and I don't know. I don't know. I'm just caught off guard. Video.
Make one up. Make one up, Chad.
Yeah, video, I guess.
No, that's good. That's good. That's good. Yeah. And really, for any of you who stream or know streaming or do any of that, you know, audio is dire important. That's priority, because people can deal with a bad lighting, bad video if the audio is really good. Some people are just listening to it in their car. So, you know.
Right.
Okay. Two tips, 2 immediate tips they can do that will help them when it comes to leadership or leading worship. 2 tips that a person can do right now that will help them in leading worship.
Find yourself a very, very honest friend that will give you honest feedback.
Very good.
That's one. And then work on your relationship with God, because leading worship should be an expression of your daily walk with him.
Oh, man. I know I wasn't expecting you to say that. I thought you were going to say, pretend like you're in the spirit even when you're not in the spirit. That is a much better answer than, that's why you do what you do and I don't. But it's true. It really is true. If you want to be able to lead in worship, you should probably be working on your spiritual connection with God and making sure that's good. Ivan put out that quality versus quantity of content as well. So having good quality content. Very good.
Totally.
Okay. And the one thing that they can do for their stage presence, if somebody's doing stage presence, I'll probably include as well as streaming or video presence. What's one thing that they can do?
Sure. Try to eliminate distractions. That can cover so many things. You know, it could be actions like your hand movements. It can be visual, right? Now that we're all doing everything from home, if you know there's a bird or something in the back that just keeps flying in and out, that's a distraction.
Yeah.
Audio, you know, there's so many ways that, you know, distraction can present itself. So I think if you can try to limit or eliminate that, that's honestly the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's good. My distraction's my left hand. It just gets all awkward when I'm singing. I don't know what to do with it. It just wants to do whatever it wants. So yeah, totally, man. Too good, too good. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just catching up with us, I am hanging out with Chad Manalo, director, producer, music, media tech studio, studio guru, does it all right here in LA. If you're looking for a studio, he's got one that you can get connected to. Follow him at Chad Mixes, and we're just talking about life and a bunch of other stuff. We're gonna take a quick pivot, and we're gonna play a game that I like to call, Chad, Love One, Leave One. Love one, leave one. My friends, prepare yourselves. This is a time when we get to play the Love One, Leave One game. And I want you to start chatting in there and putting in what your options are. Game is pretty simple. I'm going to give you two options between two different things. You're going to choose which one you love, and that makes the other thing is the thing that you will leave. The thing you love, you can have consistently in your life for the rest of your life and enjoy it every day, Chad. The thing you don't choose will disappear for eternity, and everyone in the universe can no longer experience that thing because you didn't choose it. Not to put any pressure on you, but if you choose incorrectly, we'll never be able to do that thing again, bro. All right.
Not a light game.
So, if you are jumping in with us, feel free to jump along and type in keyboard warriors. Get your fingers ready, Chad. I'm gonna set up here and give me a quick second. And if you're ready, then I will be ready in a second. All right, Chad, you ready to go, bro?
Let's do it.
Okay. Here we go. Let me move these side to side so I can see them. Okay. You got a minute and a half, Chad. Whatever you choose to love, the other thing disappears. Don't choose wrong. The universe is relying on your answers. Here we go. Behringer or Heath and Allen? The universe is dying, Chad. Come on.
I would leave Allen and Heath.
Okay, leave. Oh, Allen Heath is left. Okay, Taco Bell or Del Taco?
Oh, I love Del Taco.
Target or Old Navy?
Oh, I love Target. Yeah.
Gospel or CCM? Music production or playing the bass?
Love production now.
Lucille's or Phil's? Love Lucille's? All right.
Yeah.
All right. Drums or bass?
I love me drums. I love drums.
All right. Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix. Love.
All right. All right. Nuggets or Clippers? They're going to start their game at 6, I believe.
Oh, leave the Clippers. Get that out of here, man. This is a league show. Are you kidding?
You're hurting Rolando's feelings. Special K-Loaf or Haystacks?
I love Haystacks.
Oh, I think we just ran out of time, my friends. Good job, good job, good job, bro. Good work, good work, good work, everybody. Thanks for jumping in there. All right. Your Bronx put one on here. Your instruments in studio or Michelle Packnack?
Oh, come on. Don't put me on the spot there.
All right, let's get back to a couple of our other questions here today, bro. So, for someone like you who is so enwrapped in technology and production, you're always dealing with digital stuff, you're actually somebody who would much rather get a phone call and do face-to-face as opposed to FaceTime. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Let's talk about relationships in 2020. As it deals with the COVID isolating us, as it deals with the digital world, as it deals with just young adults in general. Because right now, I guess the thing is, not that I know, because I'm trying to figure it out myself, but like dating apps, dating online, swipe left or right or up or down, swipe some way. For you believe in building, especially in these times, building good face-to-face relationships and connections. Yeah? Talk to me about that.
Yeah. I mean, yes, social media is always that double-edged sword, right? I think obviously it's done so much good, or it is allowing for a lot of good to happen. Technology is obviously it's how we're doing this right now. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So there's definitely a lot of good things, about technology and connecting through technology. However, it's also the easiest way to kind of hide, hide behind something. I know, and I have a million conversations that are just text messages now. And for me, the way I view it is, you know, it's a multitasking thing.
Mm,
So I don't necessarily have to be available to pick up your phone call. But if there's something that, needs immediacy or something, I can look at it and kind of judge it and be like, okay, I got to call this guy back or I got to text them back,
right.
versus, if I missed a phone call, I don't know, if they didn't leave a voicemail or anything, I don't know what's happening, things like that. So like text messaging is good in that sense where it can kind of fill in, where you might not necessarily have the time to have that conversation at that moment.
Right.
However, I do think that we are losing a lot of social and communication, and honestly, emotional connection because, communication. I don't know what the number is or whatever, but the majority is nonverbal.
Yeah.
You know what I
Mm,
mean? And there's so much that is said, with your body language, your, facial expression, the tone of your voice, all that kind of stuff that just can't be,
relayed.
duplicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the digital realm. And so I think, we've lost that and we're not intentional about connecting with people, whether it's through Zoom or, back before COVID, meeting up for coffee or lunch or something like that, we've kind of lost a lot of actually understanding people,
Mm,
on a deeper level. And obviously right now we just think, okay, swipe up and oh, cool, like he's doing this thing, he's doing that thing. But, again, we hide behind that and we kind of create the perfect scenario of what we want people to see, an updated version of our life
yeah.
versus calling in and saying, hey, man, how are you actually doing? And creating that space, of time, which we don't ever get back, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
True.
actually sharing that time together is a sacred thing because you're saying, hey, you're valuable, you're important enough for me to spend this time that I know I will never get back, but in helping me understand you and you understanding me. And so I feel like that just relationships all the way from business to significant others to your family to even potential employers, right? Like just relationships in general, I feel like have lacked that.
Yeah.
And so we don't actually fully understand each other a
Yeah.
lot more. And so what you get is, unfortunately, is you get more of the opinions and the butting of heads and the differences and the no one actually seeking to understand, and they're just communicating basically to get their point across. And,
Mm.
I'm correct and you're wrong instead of just seeking to understand.
Yeah, as somebody just put on posted up here, comment Jillian, the virtual space is convenient, and unfortunately, I think that may be the danger of the virtual space, isn't it? Because it's so convenient, we tend to lean towards it. We give it to our kids to keep them busy. We
Yeah.
use it to take up our time. We use it in the restroom. We use it everywhere just because it's so
Right.
convenient. And in so doing, we kind of lose the human touch, right? So
Right.
I'm gonna make you a counselor right now. You're a counselor. Boom. This is who you are, Chad. You're gonna. Melanie and I have just come into your office, and
Uh-huh.
we're tech savvy people who love to do a lot of texting and stuff. Give us one piece of advice to help our relationship be better.
Wow.
I mean, you filled
True.
every other role, bro. You might as well give me some marital advice here.
Um, like through texting or like communication
Yeah,
or
and communication. Maybe both of us are on our phones right now while we're in your office.
yeah. Um, I would just say, start off each day as unselfishly as you can.
Mm,
And I think the biggest thing, obviously, I hope that we've gotten from all this COVID stuff is that, it's not material possessions, it's not,
absolutely.
degrees, it's not awards, it's not all this kind of things. It's that we share this time here,
Yeah.
and that time again is the most valuable and important thing. And when you give that to somebody, especially your spouse, that's really prioritizing and putting them at the top of your list. So if you start off, hey, you know, how can I just be unselfish towards my significant other? That's what I would say.
You get your MFT degree, bro. There it is. Okay, we're just gonna. If you're just catching up with us right now, I am with Chad Manalo, who's doing some great things here in LA. A young adult doing some really fresh stuff. We're talking about faith and music and production. I'm gonna ask him a couple more questions before we round out our time together, Chad. One of my questions as we close out the day is, if you could talk to your 10-year ago self, what would you tell yourself? What piece of advice would you give yourself?
Ooh. I would say trust God more and just take the step.
Oh, wow. Somebody need to hear that today. Take that step.
Just take the step. You know, I mean, for me, because I oversee so many things, I always want to see the big picture, and I have to have the plan, and I have to have the backup plan and the backup to the backup plan to make sure that whatever the goal is, it's achieved. But God really just, you know, asks us to follow him. And I have this picture of God just in front of me with his hand reaching back to me and just said, just take it, you know, and you don't need to see the rest of it. You know, if you just believe in me and trust me and know that, you know, every plan and you know, thing that I have for your life is perfect and it's good, just take my hand. And that's that first step.
Wow. Too good, bro. Too good. What hopes do you have as a young adult for our church? Looking at our church, what hopes do you have for it?
You know, something like what you're doing here right now is giving me hope, honestly. You know, one of the churches that I worked at, our vision statement was creating spaces for the people that God misses the most.
Woo, man, that's good.
And I think a lot of our brothers and sisters in this denomination are some of the people that God really misses because they've, you know, left or have gone astray or confused or lost. And I think for those of us who are still in the faith and who have not just, you know, the vehicle or the the platform to do something about it, I think we have that responsibility and that duty to really create those spaces for those people. And whatever that space looks like, whether it's a church, whether it's a coffee house, whether it's what you're doing here online, whether it's coffee, meeting up with somebody, when we can have those spaces and what that looks like is basically, it's not a condemning place. It's not a judging space. You know what I mean? It's hey, let me welcome you back here with open arms. What went wrong? You know, what went wrong and how can we help? You know, that's the hope that I have for our church, is that we can have more of these spaces where the people that God misses the most can just come back and feel at home again.
You and I both, Chad. You and I both. So let's keep working to that end. And I want to invite all of you to come along that journey. Keep working to that end. We've got a lot of space, and there's a lot of people that God misses. So let's be that agent for our world around us. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us here at Tuesday Tea Time. You guys have been phenomenal. Chad, as usual, you're a scholar, you're a gentleman, and you're a piece of hunk, man. I love seeing your face. Thank you so much for coming on with me, Chad. Thank you for joining us. Hey, next week, we're going to try to have a conversation and hold some dialogue with one of our firefighters here in the Southern California or the West Coast area and have them just fill us in on like what's happening. Most likely it'll be one of our young adults here from our area, just, you know, catching up with their life, supporting them, loving them, praying on them. So I want you to come on and join us and add some good stuff there, all right? If you haven't already, I want to invite you, go over to our YouTube channel, please. Smash that like button, hit the subscribe, and then share it with other people and say, hey, look, you got to catch this because this is really good. We really want to get this out there, make sure that people are getting connected. Every week, we're going to be holding meaningful conversations. We're going to laugh a lot. We're going to talk a lot. We're going to pray some, and we're going to think about what God is doing in our world around us through people like my guy, Chad, the man. Chad, again, thank you, bro. As we close out today, Chad, give us some closing words, man. Close us off here, bro.
man, just go out there, be yourself, and just love on people.
I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. Let's all get on it, my friends. God bless you. May your Wednesday be as good as your Tuesdays, and may God continue to lead you through the week. Chad, thank you again, my bro, for coming on here. We're going to be catching up with you in the future just to make sure all is well. God bless you, my friends. Take care. Until next week's Tuesday Tea